Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail. So, Kim, what's been doing the last week? I know you had a lot of traveling. So tell me, what was your trip like? I mean, did you love the different vineyards?
I didn't realize there was this whole world of people who are so into wine and that it's really their livelihood and they live on these vineyards.
I know when we went to Sonoma, which was many, many years ago in Napa, Poppy and I, we went to, I love the Hess Vineyard. I like the art more than the wine in a lot of these vineyards. Are they still the same now? Do they still have collections of contemporary art?
I didn't see any major collections. The vineyards I went to were very private experiences and homes and stuff. I don't know about the bigger, more touristy ones because the guy that I went with was very into it, so he knew where to go.
Did you make notes? Did you make notes?
Yeah,
like
so
I told
it's so
you?
funny. So I took a pen, or when you went to these vineyards, they gave you a list of the wines you were drinking with basically an order form, so you could order it at the end. Less so a notebook. So I just wrote on the order form my thoughts and stuff. And there were some times, because we were doing 3 in a day, which even...
Oh, my gosh.
That's a lot, even for people who are very into wine. And so sometimes by the third one, I was kind of just...
You didn't know where you were.
I didn't know where I was. So it was so funny because my boyfriend was looking at the card after that I wrote on, and he was like, what were you writing down? I was writing down, like, I'm bored. What are we doing next? He's like, that's not what you're supposed to be writing on the card.
Now, do you spit the wine out when you're drinking?
No.
You swallow it?
Yeah, and some places would give you 8 glasses to try.
Oh, my God. That's ridiculous.
But I think, I rarely even felt buzzed a lot of the time. I think we were drinking good wine, pacing ourselves.
Yeah, but even so, because I remember going to the Antinori Vineyard outside of Florence, and we used to have to, and that wine was fabulous, and we had to spit it out. If you drank all the different bottles that they were showing us in a vertical testing, we would have been able to walk out of the door straight. We would have been a mess.
I don't know. We were honestly very fine. There were sometimes when we would have a morning tasting, and it was a little much for me right after breakfast. But otherwise, it was fine. And I'm trying to think if there was any standout funny stories. There was this one point so the vineyards are so hard to get to. There's like a joke in Napa that's like, to find a vineyard, you have to get to the fork in the road, howl at the moon 3 times, spin around. It's impossible to get anywhere. They're just so...
They're hidden?
They're hidden, or they're like, the nicest ones are the ones with the best views, really. So you're going up a whole cliff. And the roads are so windy. I was getting so nauseous.
God, this is some experience.
Yeah. So we were going to this one, I think it was our last tasting, and we were going up this cliff, driving in our convertible, bright red, ruby red, this convertible we're driving around in.
Oh, it's like risky business. That's good.
So then, since the roads were so narrow, there was a big white truck that was kind of coming in our direction. And my boyfriend just did a little honk just to like let him know that we were there. We keep driving, and then he goes, he's following us. And I was like, no, he's not.
The truck driver?
The truck driver.
Oh, my God.
I was like, no, he's not. I look in the rear view mirror. He literally, in reverse, is going up the mountain 80 miles per hour, spins around, does a 180, and is like flipping us off, going as fast as he can. And we're like, holy shit. And we're like, this is how we die. This is the end. And then we're just waving. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then
did you cut him off?
No, he was just crazy.
Oh, my God.
And there was no one around if something, God forbid, did happen. I don't even know who would know.
Nobody. A drunk who had just come from the vineyard might see you about a week later.
And think he was hallucinating, and that was it. I mean, I'm sure Mom would have had me on Find My Friends and found me soon enough.
She would have found you, exactly. All right.
Anyway, he ended up turning around. So then when we finally got up the mountain, we were like, okay, we need a glass of wine. We just went through a near-death experience.
All right. Well, I remember my craziest experience, not in California, but in one of the vineyards in France. We were having different tastes of different wines, and they went from they went from a sweet wine to a drier wine to a fuller wine. By the end of the night, I said to Poppy, I don't think I can get up from the table. I mean, you're going to have to get me up. And he says, don't be ridiculous. You're fine. I said, I'm telling you, I'm not fine. I never was so sick in my life because I've decided I have to stick with the very simple one wine. I cannot mix my
I don't know if it's
vintages.
a thing that you can't mix wine in the same way how you can't mix spirits.
I don't
Pretty
know.
sure you can mix wine because
Well, maybe my tolerance wasn't very. For
Yeah.
sure, my tolerance was not good. That I'm telling you. So I learned my lesson, and I very rarely do mix it. If I start with one, I stay with it. I don't go from a white to a red to an after dinner liqueur. I just can't do. My body is a temple. I can't
Right.
do it.
That's so funny. Yeah, I feel like also you realize on trips that you take with someone, I'm sure you realized with Poppy in the beginning too, like you have to communicate very well while you're away with someone.
Well, that's the whole point of going on a trip. You really get to understand somebody's, idiosyncrasies or pluses and minuses. So it's in a learning experience. Even after you're married, it's a learning experience because everybody looks at a situation differently. Somebody who loves to climb a mountain doesn't necessarily have a partner that likes to do the same activity. So you got to find an experience that both of you can get into. And I guess you had a good time in your tasting and in your eating. The same as
eating is definitely something
that you enjoy to do.
Yes.
All right.
And I was wondering too, one of the actual people at the vineyard kind of brought this up because they would all ask, what do you do? I was talking about the podcast, and they were saying, it seems like a generational thing now that men talk more about their feelings now, maybe more so than before. Do you think that's true?
I think it's absolutely true. It was a sign in when I got married, or when I was going with different men in the 60s. It was a sign of weakness to talk about your feelings, your psychological feelings. Now everybody talks about it. I mean, if it's just a fact of the time. So I think that is a very different thing, and everybody analyzes, as we've spoken before, what your situation is. I never thought about that in a million years, about analyzing my dates or my emotions. If I felt sad, I went in my room and I felt sad by myself.
Right. So men and women are analyzing more and are more open about mental health and going to therapy and all of those things.
Which is good. Which is good.
Yeah, I guess maybe for men, it's a little bit of a bigger leap than it was for women, because women were always like stereotypically emotional beings who like talked more about that kind of stuff.
And I think also now, with COVID, we're spending so much time at home that we're overanalyzing ourselves, men and women, and children. So that's going to be maybe a plus, maybe a minus at the end of this, if we ever get out of this pandemic, which hopefully we will be. And the stresses just of daily life have become more of a conversation, because everybody is going through it. We're going through a withdrawal from the Afghanistan. People are very upset naturally about our soldiers being unnecessarily killed. All these things are psychological issues that enter everyone's mind, because it's, first of all, we see it on the screen, which that started really in Vietnam. That was what happened with the blow up of Vietnam. When you see people on the screen that are having in your own living room having these kind of horrific problems and death and famine, you just get emotionally into it. It draws you in, and it's really it's a product of what we've discussed so much before, of our technology. And I think that's something we're going to have to learn how to adjust our feelings towards. I mean, we can't turn it off, because that really just doesn't happen. We can turn our phones off just while we're with somebody and talk to them seriously about what our day was like or what's important to us. But somehow or other, it always ends up that you're looking at things on a screen. And I think, therefore, you're going to need to talk things through more. And definitely, I agree. The psychological things are affecting men and women equally.
Do you think it's a good sign then when you're with someone and you don't feel the need to check your phone all the time? Or do you think it has nothing to do with the person you're with? For example, like if there's one friend I always check my phone when I'm around versus one I'm always present with.
Well, I think it's a plus that you find the other person you're with entertaining or enjoyable enough that you don't have to constantly go on your phone. I mean, to me, the phone is to be used for an emergency when you're out with people.
Yeah,
Even
that's
out with
very
friends.
different than what we do. Obviously,
Right.
we're just
That's
always
a generational
looking.
difference.
Yeah.
And unless you have some kind of issue at home or in your family or something, I don't see the need after a certain time to be on the phone. But I've been out for dinner with you and with your family and others that are constantly looking down, including your grandfather. I don't understand what it is.
He's usually Googling things.
Well, he's Googling. What is he Googling? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, it's almost a sense of boredom.
Even that's what TikTok is, right? It's like each video is only a few seconds because our attention spans are so short.
Slight. Exactly. I mean, that's part of what's going on. People don't really read a newspaper, don't really go in length with a book. They get synopsises of it. It's part of a culture, I guess.
With TV, I feel like people like binge watch TV shows.
Well, I think that's escapism. I also think a lot of the binging is due to the fact that we've been in our house in lockdown for almost 18 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now that people are getting out more, it'll be very interesting because I was looking at a program this morning on one of the financial programs.
Oh, I thought you were going to say White Lotus. I was
no,
like, we
White
can't
Lotus,
talk about White Lotus anymore.
I'm not going to talk about it because you told me I'm a spoil. I shouldn't spoil it. You know what's interesting, and I don't think you've been watching it. I think you should. It covers all age groups. It's family relationships, friendships within a family that are destructive, a young married honeymooners that the groom doesn't want his wife to develop her working skills. He wants to take over. He's very wealthy, I guess, and he wants her to just be a plus one in the relationship, and how she has anxiety over that and wants to leave him by the end of her Hawaiian honeymoon trip. And you've got an older woman who has to throw her mother's ashes into the ocean, and it develops that she really hated her mother. Her mother hated her.
Okay, don't spoil things for people.
Well, I'm not spoiling things, but I think what's interesting is how they all work through it. In our discussion about relationships, I think people are watching programs that are very similar to what they're feeling in their own lives. The frustration of relationships.
It's like you vicariously get therapy through watching
Exactly. They almost don't need a therapist because you see how each of these characters, and they were wonderfully acted characters, they're terrific, how they work through their problems. And now you can see that you could relate to that in working through a problem. So I recommend...
Did you relate to one of the characters?
Well, I didn't really relate to any of the characters, but I could see them in people I know. Different people I know. Not the whole character, but I could see...
You have nothing to work through, so you didn't picture yourself in it?
I have plenty to work through, but I didn't have issues with my parents, such, that I had to throw her ashes in the ocean and hated them.
Right.
I think there were extremes because otherwise it wouldn't make good TV or good drama. But I thought there were points in everything that people were searching. I think the whole theme of today in our world is we're searching for something, whether it be a personal relationship, a better job. It was very interesting to see how all the characters work through different stages of their lives, and I definitely recommend it.
Okay, so I'll let you know when I watch it. I told the guy I'm dating I would watch it with him, but can I pretend that I haven't watched it and just do it because I feel like everyone's talking about it?
I think you could watch it and then maybe even some of the things are worth watching again. It's only because you
we'll see if he listens to the podcast, because if he says, I know you listened.
Well, you know what? It's not the end of the world. Trust me, it is not it's not going down in the annals of history.
Well, you never know.
It was interesting. It was definitely a good watch during the summer.
Okay, let's move on to listener questions.
Okay.
Someone actually wrote in this. They were very cute. On an Instagram DM, they said they liked us, and so she She said, I would love to hear your opinions on coworkers dating. I have a big stupid crush on a coworker who's training me for the department I want to be in, and I feel like I can't do anything about it because we work together. Technically, our company policy only frowns upon relationships when one person is a supervisor of the other, so that wouldn't be an issue here, but it would just be so awkward working together if it didn't work out. Keep crushing or let it go. Would love to hear your thoughts on this on the podcast.
Well, Kimmy, you have to give your answer on that because you worked. So give me what you think.
Ask the one of us who had a desk job.
Yeah, but did you ever have anybody in the office you ever felt that you had a crush on?
I think that crushes develop when you spend a lot of time around someone, and especially in a working environment, if someone's good at their job, that's always something that's attractive, and you're around them, killing it at work. I honestly think that sometimes it's a crush based off of circumstance. Like if you left or if you started crushing on someone else, you would kind of forget about this. Of course, there's exceptions. This could be the love of your life. It just seems like starting something off that's already complicated. There's so many fish in the sea. I would try to find a crush on someone else and let it go, because at the end of the day, you're the most important person, not this guy. So you don't want to in any way jeopardize your career.
I think you're right. I think you should separate the two. I don't think you should date in the office. I think, especially in today's world where everybody is, not abuse of power.
Well, they said they're not supervisors.
Even if they're not supervisors, let's say you like your job and then the two of you break up. Are you going to feel uncomfortable in the office?
You want to be your best self when you're working.
Right. So I would definitely say if it's just a beginning crush, maybe you could shut it down.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Okay, next question. Can your own boyfriend give you the ick? Do you know what the ick is?
No.
So a lot of people talk about this. It's a very popular term. It's like a sudden turn off when you're romantically interested in someone, and it's usually brought on by a very small but specific thing. Like the way they chew their food, suddenly you could be like, I got the ick. Now you don't like them at all because you saw one thing that just forever grossed you out about the person.
Well, I guess it definitely could happen because...
the ick is very real. It happens, but usually, in the beginning of dating someone. But I guess the question here is more, can someone you've been dating a while suddenly give you the ick?
If somebody suddenly gives you the ick after you've been dating a while, I think then you have to rethink your relationship because, you don't want to get stuck. Back to White Lotus. She married a guy who gave her the ick in the end. I think you don't want to be stuck in a long-term relationship with a lot of icks. So I would say rethink the whole situation, and if you really find things that are really important annoying, then I have to think you have to just
well, sometimes it's not an important
but it's important enough to for you to think about,
to suddenly be turned off by the person.
And listen, that can happen from a male experience looking at a woman.
For sure.
For sure, and vice versa. So I think it's a little sense of immaturity on both parts if you let little things get in the way. But if it's something that's large and really could be really majorly annoying.
I honestly disagree. I think if it's something little and it's giving you the ick, that's okay too. There's other people you could go out with who won't give you the ick.
Well, that's right. That's what I'm saying. I would almost say, you know what? If there's so many little issues that are annoying you, then that maybe this is, you got to call it a day and look on to somebody else.
Yeah, I think you can kind of get
Depends
the ick
how
whenever.
Small it is. I think you have to get over the ick, and if you can't get over the ick, move on.
Yeah. Okay, someone said, do you have any daily routines?
Well, yeah, I guess I eat honey buns every morning, pecan buns, and a cup of coffee and a glass of juice. That's a routine.
Yeah.
No, I don't really have a routine. I know a lot of my friends do exercise first thing in the morning and whatever. I sort of I like to watch. I do watch the news in the morning. I like to watch my Squawk Box, and then I put on some of the news things. And since I'm a little bit of an investor, I watch it and I see if I want to trade or if I want to buy stocks. So that's a routine, but it's not set in gold. If I don't do it on any given day, it's really not. I'm flexible with that. But what about you, Kim?
You know my routine in the morning.
Oh, you mean your breakfast routine?
I lived with you.
Yeah, no. The breakfast routine is correct. But
That's the thing, yeah. Both of ours, I guess, have to do with breakfast. Otherwise, I don't have something super... I mean, I like to work out at some point during the day, but that's not a routine. Like, my routine really is the breakfast routine, and I do get a little frustrated if I don't do it.
Well, I'm not as strict as you are in the breakfast routine. So I can go without that particular regimen every day. But I think I don't know. I think that you get caught up in that, and maybe you should break your habit and try something different, because if it doesn't happen, you set yourself off into a very bad mood for the rest of the day.
That's true.
And that's sort of ridiculous too. So a routine is fine as long as you can be a little flexible with it. That's my belief.
Yeah, I do think it's good, though, to have structure, or like things that you can know will be the same every day.
Well, I think structure is getting up in the morning, having your coffee, and doing your job, or doing your whatever you're going to do during the day.
Not reality TV and oatmeal.
Exactly. Reality TV and oatmeal should not be a regular routine.
Yeah, that's fair. Last question. Should you be offended if someone calls you a butterface?
What is that? A butterface? Does that mean you're fat?
It means that you have a great body but a bad face.
Oh, I think that's terrible.
I know. But people have been using that term for years. People will be like, she's a butterface.
That's really bullying.
Yeah.
That's bullying. I think that's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And
so they shouldn't be flattered because it's like a backhanded that their body looks good.
No, it's not a compliment.
Yeah.
It's not a compliment. And I think these kind of comments are part of why men and women have such image problems, especially about their bodies and their face, instead of what's really important, which is their minds and what their relationships are with each other. And I think that's awful.
Yep. Go off, Gail.
All right.
Okay, let's do our 1950s movie of the week.
Okay, I was thinking, since our topic today was fun, but yet got serious about relationships, I think we should really suggest Streetcar Named Desire with Marlon Brando. I believe it was in the early 50s. And
1951.
Okay. It was a serious movie about people's moving from their past, going into an unknown area, and having relationships with somebody completely out of their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So I think it's an American classic.
Yeah, I mean, it was adapted from Tennessee Williams' play.
Yeah. It's an American classic that should be revisited.
Okay. That was another great episode of Excuse My Grandma. Grandma, tell them how to follow us.
Oh, Kimmy, you have to do that.
She doesn't know.
I don't know. You have to do it.
Okay, guys, you can look us up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whichever app you have to listen to your podcasts. Just search Excuse My Grandma. Subscribe so our episodes come up on your phone every week. Follow us on Instagram at Excuse My Grandma, or TikTok at Excuse My Grandma. Send us in any questions you have so we can answer them on the podcast like we did today. And we will see you next week.
Okay, bye.